Think about the last time your phone froze, screen stuck, apps crash, nothing working. What did you do? You restarted it, you gave it a reset. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Your brain freezes too. It gets stuck in loops of overthinking, anxiety, stress, but unlike your phone, you can't just turn it off and back on. Or can you? What if I told you there's a reset button for your brain and it's been inside your body this entire time waiting for you to press it? It's called movement. This is the story of how one hyperactive child labeled as a problem became an Olympic medalist, and how that journey revealed something the medical world is only now beginning to fully understand, that the key to mental wellness isn't just in our minds, it's in our bodies. Let me take you back to the early 1980s. Picture a young couple on their wedding day. They're glowing, healthy, full of life. Fast forward less than 2 years, same couple, but now they look like they've aged 25 years. Dark circles, exhausted faces. What happened? They had a child, a boy named Leon, and this boy wouldn't stop moving. He was what doctors back then called a problem child, hyperactive, demanding constant attention, never sleeping, driving his parents to the edge of sanity. The family doctor had a solution: medication, sedation, drug interventions to calm him down, to make him manageable, to fix the problem. But his parents did something unexpected. They said no, not to medicine itself, but to the idea that their son needed to be chemically altered to fit into a box. They chose a different path. They chose movement. Here's what most people don't understand about hyperactivity, about that restless energy that some children carry. It's not a malfunction, it's fuel looking for an engine. And Leon's parents, without realizing it, were about to discover something profound. They put him in swimming lessons before he could barely walk, mother and baby gymnastics before his first birthday, tumble tots, every sport available for his age, and something magical happened. The problem child became easier to manage. The endless energy found a channel. The chaos found structure. By age 6, Leon was watching the 1984 Olympics on television, and he made a declaration to his father: I'm going to compete there one day. Most parents would smile and nod. Cute dream, kid. But Leon wasn't just dreaming, he was already training. At 9 years old, he discovered diving, and within a short time, it was clear this wasn't just another sport. This was his sport. Fast forward to 2004. Leon Taylor stands on an Olympic podium with a medal around his neck. 3 Olympic Games competed, childhood dream achieved. But here's the part that matters most. None of it would have happened if his parents had chosen the medication route instead of the movement route. Now, let's pause Leon's story for a moment because we need to talk about what's happening in the world right now. Let me ask you something. How many people do you know personally who are struggling with their mental health? Really think about it. Depression, anxiety, stress, overwhelm, panic attacks. Someone close to you? When this question was asked to an audience in London, nearly every hand went up. Nearly every hand. Here are the numbers, and they should concern all of us. Mental health problems are now the largest cause of disease burden worldwide. Not cancer, not heart disease. Mental health. In the UK alone, nearly 20% of people over 16 suffer from symptoms of depression or anxiety. 20%. That's 1 in 5 people walking around carrying invisible weight. But here's what's even more troubling. That's just the people with diagnosable conditions. There's a massive percentage of the population who don't have a clinical diagnosis but are suffering. Stress has become so normal, so commonplace, that we've stopped recognizing it as a warning sign. We've normalized mental suffering. The World Health Organization calls stress a global health epidemic. Let that sink in. An epidemic. We're in the middle of a mental health crisis, and most of us don't even realize we're part of it. So here's my question. What would our world look like if mental health issues were rare instead of common? What if we could drastically reduce the number of people suffering? What if there was a simple intervention that could change everything? There is, and it's been hiding in plain sight. Here's a problem. We spend too much time stuck in our heads and not enough time in our bodies. We think that thinking is the solution to our problems, but thinking is often the cause, especially when it turns into overthinking. Overthinking leads to psychological stress, and psychological stress is poisoning us from the inside out. We need to move more, physically move, because movement changes everything. And when I say everything, I mean your entire experience of being alive. Let me explain what happens in your brain the moment you start moving. The second you begin physical activity, your nervous system recognizes it as stress. Your brain thinks you're about to fight or run from danger, so it protects you. It releases a protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Scientists call it BDNF for short. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain. It protects existing brain cells and creates brand new neurons, especially in the hippocampus, the area responsible for memory and learning. Your brain is literally growing while you move, but that's not all. Your brain also releases endorphins. You've probably heard of these, the feel-good chemicals, but their original purpose isn't to make you feel good. It's to numb any pain you might encounter while fighting or fleeing. That's why you feel that high after exercise. That's why things feel clearer. You're experiencing a chemical cocktail of brain growth and natural pain relief. This isn't some new age theory. This is neuroscience, and humans have known this instinctively for thousands of years. Cicero, one of Rome's greatest thinkers, over 2,000 years ago, said this: "It is exercise alone that supports the spirits and keeps the mind in vigor." He was right then, and it's more applicable now than ever. But let's get specific. Let's talk about real mental health conditions and what movement does to them. In 2013, researchers studied depression and meditative movement, yoga, tai chi, qigong. The results? Every single participant showed reduced symptoms of depression. Every single one. A few years later, another study looked at PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, regular yoga practice, and it had to be regular, reduced symptom severity, so much that some participants no longer qualified for a PTSD diagnosis. Read that again. Movement helped erase trauma that medication alone couldn't touch. Then there's anxiety. Aerobic exercise was used as an intervention for anxiety disorders. Here's why it works. People with anxiety fear physiological changes, increased heart rate, rapid breathing. These trigger panic. But when these same sensations happen during exercise, the brain learns they're safe. The fight or flight system becomes less reactive. Anxiety episodes become less frequent and less intense. And finally, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. 20 minutes of medium intensity exercise successfully reduced symptoms. 20 minutes? Remember Leon, the hyperactive child? Movement was his intervention long before anyone understood why it worked. So if movement is this powerful, why aren't we all doing it? Here's where it gets interesting. Let me give you 2 actions you can take right now. The first is immediate. The next time you're stressed, hunched over your laptop, drowning in deadlines, your body is being poisoned, cortisol flooding your system, adrenaline spiking. You're stuck in fight or flight mode with nowhere to fight and nowhere to flee. Get up, walk. If you can't walk, change your posture. Change your breathing rhythm. Even that small shift disrupts the stress cycle. You're pressing the reset button. Do this as often as you can, multiple times a day if needed. The second action is long-term, and it's a challenge. Find your movement, not exercise for exercise's sake, not forcing yourself to go to the gym because you think you should. Find the movement that fills you with joy. This is where Leon's story takes a dark turn, because even though he trained 7 hours a day, 6 days a week, he wasn't mentally well. At the Sydney Olympics in 2000, he finished 4th, so close to his dream. The next year, he had reconstructive shoulder surgery, 7 months of brutal rehabilitation, then he got injured again. Another surgery, same shoulder. He fell into a depression that lasted 8 months. Here's what's important. He was still training, still moving, still doing everything right on paper. But something was missing. He stood poolside one day, away from the crowds, tears streaming down his face, shoulders hunched. He'd given up. That's when his mentor asked him one question: "Why do you do this sport?" Leon's answer was automatic: "Because I enjoy it." The mentor looked at him. "I haven't seen you smile in 8 months." That was the turning point. Leon had forgotten joy. He turned his movement into a punishment, into an obligation. I, too, stress. The next day, he went back to training with one change. He put a smile on his face. Forced at first, but it shifted everything. He found the joy in every dive, every training session, every weight lifted. That negative spiral reversed. He got back on track. he made it to the Olympics. The magic ingredient isn't just movement, it's joyful movement. So here's your challenge. Be creative, walk, run, swim, dive, play tennis, kick a football. Try those early morning sober raves if that's your thing. Whatever makes you feel alive. Because when you move with joy, you're not just exercising, you're medicating your mind with the most powerful drug available, and it has zero negative side effect. Let me tell you about one more person. A young man, a high flyer in a massive London organization, almost at the top of the tree. On paper, everything was perfect, but in reality, he was suffering from bipolar disorder. Under the care of a psychiatrist, over 5 or 6 years, his symptoms had gotten worse. Medication kept increasing, his young family was falling apart. He was right on the edge. One intervention was made. One question was asked, "What do you love to do?" He used to love running as a kid, so he started running again, frequently. He joined a local running club. 6 months later, he ran a half marathon with his wife, his children, extended family cheering him on. Over that period, his bipolar symptoms reduced so dramatically that he was taken off nearly all his medication. The side effects that plagued him faded away. From a mental health perspective, he was in the best place he'd been in over a decade because running was his movement. Thomas Jefferson wrote this: "Exercise and application produce order in our affairs, health of body, cheerfulness of mind, and these make us precious to our friends." We live in a world drowning in stress, overwhelm, and overthinking. We're trapped in our heads, disconnected from our bodies, and if we don't change this, the next generation will model our behaviors. They'll learn that sitting still and stressing is normal. Mental health problems will continue rising. So let's start a movement for movement. Reclaim your mental health. Find your movement, the movement that fills you with joy, and do it as often as you can. Your brain is waiting for you to press the reset button. Will you?